Okay, One Piece chapter 1142, blind reaction. So, my first immediate thoughts is like Killingham and Gunko, they're clearly like they've made their move. But the other thing too is that stuff with the kids. That was interesting because like the kids were drawing out things that scared them. And the reason I found that interesting is what they drew is what we're seeing. And I don't know, like, did I miss something? Because like that almost feels like they saw beforehand what's getting ready to happen. And I feel like I did miss something. But I do have to say this. Oda got me with this one, man. Like with the way that some of the teachers were, let's just say Oda definitely drew how teachers looked in the 90s and 2000s. The other thing, too, is like after you get past that, like the crude humor aside, after you get past that, it's kind of funny in that one of the kids was like, things that scares me is my mom. And it's like Oda's humor, I'm never gonna tire of it. But let's just back up though, because like there's quite a bit that took place here. But again, I do feel like I did miss something. So we opened this chapter and the kids are talking about how there's a snake in the yard and they're running away, they're terrified. You see the faculty, they're brought to attention on everything that's going on. The faculty's making contingency plans of saying, we got to evacuate everybody on time. One of the kids is about to be eaten. And then Saul just shows up and Saul just decks one of the beasts. And he's using what looks like his armament hockey. And, you just get the reminder that like Saul used to be in the Navy. So we know that Saul is strong. And I like that Nico Robin is there. And this is one of the things that, has been like a pride and joy for me reading the Elbaf arc is just seeing this reuniting of Nico Robin and with Saul. And I like how Robin is getting a chance to see how these kids look at Saul. And we know about their relationship when she was younger, but it's kind of like a passing of the torch thing, because like she's no longer looking as a child looking at Saul as Saul is doing all these great things. She's looking as an adult. And it's kind of funny because on one hand, Robin did go back to her appearance like from when she was younger, the way she stylized her hair and everything. And at the same time, the fact that she's there with him, it's almost like she's in a low-key way feeling that Nico Olivia role and that she's standing beside Saul the same way that Nico Olivia did. So I did think that that was kind of cool just to see that little tidbit there, whether that was intentional, unintentional. I have to wait to see, but I did like that. I wasn't necessarily super interested in Principal Tusk and Mr. Blade and Miss Ange, though Miss Ange does come in with some crucial information later on. The early parts of this chapter really got me were more so about Saul's interactions. And I gotta say, like that double page spread, absolutely brilliant. Like I love that. Like that was well done. Like, one of the things that like it took me a while to get used to with Oda is there's so much going on with the spreads, but at the same time, the artwork is just very nice. Like once you get used to Oda's drawing style and you recognize what his signature is as an artist, it grows on you. It really grows on you. And like I know like some people complain that Oda's paneling is hard to follow. It's not as like say Toriyama-esque as you would think with somebody that had influence from Toriyama, but he's got his own thing with it. Like when you just look at the progression, like where you see Saul and he's running along one of the trees, and you see like the arms moving up and down, and then the next panel you see him jump. While you would want to see like an extra panel or two there, I don't think that the flow is wrong because like we see him running, and so the next panel you see that he's jumped off. Like that's enough, and then you see the wind up, and it guides like he has the fist at first. It's in the air. There's no hockey. The next panel you see there's hockey. It's completely wound up, and then you see the beast look up at him, and then bam, impact shot. Like I personally think Oda's like the complaints that people have about Oda, the paneling and everything, I think is overblown. I like what Oda does here. Like I really do. I really truly like what he does. I think he does a really good job with mixing in anticipation panels and impact shots. And just like, I think that everything guides your eyes. Now, moving back to the story itself, because, I can go on and on. I can suck Oda's artwork off like crazy. I had to pause for a second because it's like, I could suck off Oda. It's like what? But I like how, like, when the kids are talking and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe this happened. And Principal Tusk is there and he's like, thanks for the help, Saul. And Saul's asking the real questions like, where did the kids come? Not the kids, but where did the snake come from? You see as Chopper's looking and he's like, oh, Mr. Wolf is injured. But then we find out that the rest of the kids are asleep. And so that's like our next sign that like there's some fuckery going on. And we know that like these kids are not safe. But, just getting a chance to see it in full, in its full glory. I thought that this was just good pacing because, like, based on the last chapter, you're thinking we're going to focus more so on Luffy and Loki. And Oda just subverts expectations by taking the scope and putting it elsewhere. And so when Saul is under the impression of like, okay, got to get out of here. And he's checking on the kids. And we see the kids and they're walking, they're sleepwalking, they're clearly being controlled. And we see the arrows, so we know who's behind that. Like, it's like a blink and you miss it moment. Like in the background, you see the arrow there. And when I first read the chapter, it took me a second. Because I was like, oh, okay, because like your eyes are just, you read the panels and or the speech bubbles. And it's like, we got to blow the horn, warn the country. And you see the kids and the sleepwalking, then like tucked away behind the kids in the background is the arrow. Like very nice placement. Very nice. I enjoyed that a lot. And so the next thing we see is that they're looking up and they see the forest. And you see Chopper, he's got the, super over the top expression to be expected. Chopper is amazed by everything. But then we start seeing the monsters. And everybody's like, where'd these monsters come from? You see Nico Robin. My first thought was like, Nico Robin, as much reading as she's read, she's probably got like the Wikipedia pulled up, like, I know what this is, and said, especially when she covers her mouth. But as the kids start passing out and Saul's attention moves elsewhere and he's looking at the kids, and then they're coming to the plan of like, we need to stop the children, get them to safety. We need to secure the kids, which that just continues the whole theme of the New World. What I like is that Oda, right when he gets you hooked on what's going on with the kids, he shifts over to Loki. And we're just getting further building upon of what we saw previously. Because in the past, in the last chapter, we learn about, fire and what it can do to Elbaf. Well, right now we see Loki, he's flexing. He's got, I'm guessing that's Mjolnir just based on, Loki and then like the hammer and etc. Even though like Mjolnir is like the Thor hammer. But like what I like though is that he's got the hammer and he's, talking to him saying like, you thought just leaving one leg trapped in Sea Prism Stone would be enough. But I got more than enough power. And, you guys are really about to find out exactly what it is I can do. And he says like, what fire does to Elbaf. Eventually these blasts, they're gonna hit something. And when these fires spread, exactly what's going to happen. So that's just building upon what we have. And, I did like that, Oda did this progression because like when the anime comes back and, if you're a viewer, long-time viewer, I don't really fuck with the One Piece anime like that. I just can't get into it. I prefer the manga. But I like the fact that this just builds right on it because the anime has a chance here if it wants to add in some extra material. Like whether or not they do it remains to be seen, but I did like that, that little tidbit is just built on from the prior chapter. And so the next thing we get is we get the opportunity to see Loki and he's got that hammer. He swings it. You see Zoro, nonchalant but serious expression. Luffy's freaking out. We see Hadruden and the rest of them. They're rightfully getting completely worried. And like the fire is just spreading. And then you hear the thunder and you're getting an idea of like just how overpowered somebody like Loki is. And that's where Oda, hits us back with the flashback when we get the extra information. We see how the kids are talking about all these different things that would destroy the world. And, one of them draws Nika, some of them draw the monsters, and etc. And as Saul is being, brought up to speed by this, and so is Principal Tusk. What's interesting here is that, we get the revelation, like the kids drew everything that was that they're afraid of. And what they're seeing is the visions of the world that terrifies these kids the most. The things that absolutely are coming to pass now. And you just look at some of the drawings, like I might be mistaken. Like that cloud looks like a certain cloud that Nami has. Nika, obviously being our favorite knuckleheaded Luffy. The guy with the horns, obviously being Loki, and looks like he's got a hammer behind him. Like, it's gonna be interesting. And like you have the different you have the monsters and everything. Like, it's gonna be interesting here because when you just look at it, it's like what, 2, 4, 6, it's like 7 creatures, if I'm not mistaken. I don't have the chapter pull up in front of me for the recap portion. I'm trying to do this off the top of my head and just give you guys honest to God thoughts. Kind of like how we used to do back in the day, when I was on camera and everything, and we just kind of, one shot take it. I kind of like what Oda is kind of setting up here because we know that Luffy's not going to destroy the world. Luffy's going to be a liberator, but it gives the opportunity to kind of flip everything on the head. And then that's when you get brought up with the Stooges. We get to see Killingham when we see Gunko, and Gunko drops that line when Gunko is asked, like, so what's the thing that you're afraid of? Are you afraid of anything? And it's just a one-word answer, Nika. And so it's like, okay, so now we got to see Luffy and Gunko mix it up, obviously. But, this just gives the opportunity. Like, we get to see exactly what's going to happen here with Luffy. And, just looking at the design and everything, like, I do kind of wonder, because you have like the theme like with monsters, and Nika is being presented as a monster here. Is this Oda kind of potentially setting the stage to foreshadow? Is there something else with Luffy? Is there something? Matter of fact, I think one of those monsters look like a skeleton, Brook. So I mean, like, there's something else, because it kind of makes sense. Because like the Nika fruit, Luffy, every time he's gotten a gear, I don't think it's too soon for gear 6, but now I'm thinking about like gear 2 to gear 3 and 4. Like, there wasn't that long of a gap. I think there was a bigger gap between gear 3 and gear 4, because like gear 3 should have been in Annie's lobby and Water 7 during that arc, and then gear 4 is still in Dressrosa. So it was a gap there, but like 2 and 3 wasn't a big gap. Like, could it be a gear 6, or could it be something like gear 4 where like Luffy just, builds on it? I don't know. Cause like that's the brilliance of the Nika fruit for Luffy, is that it can evolve. And I kind of feel like thematically the look that we got's already served its purpose. And it could still be built upon. That's why I'm kind of back and forth on it. Cause like, it had to look like how it looked for Bonnie and Kuma and what you had in Egghead, because like you needed to see it in Wano, because you needed Luffy to bust out a new power to justify taking down Kaido. But then when you get to Bonnie and the backstory of Kuma, the design made more sense. Now when you're looking at this and you just have Nika brought up at the same time when they're talking about monsters, and we know that the world government was afraid of the Nika fruit, it kind of feels like Oda is holding one more thing in his back pocket. That's what it feels like to me. That's what because like even like Zeus, it looks like Zeus is on there. Like even Zeus looks different. So I don't know. Like it kind of rambling at this point, but like my chapter question to you guys is going to be, let's just keep this one fun. Okay. So they talk about, what are you afraid of, if anything? What's the thing that you're afraid of? Like, what's the thing you're the most afraid of? Let me know down in the comment section below. So always, guys, if you like anything I had to say, don't forget to comment, rate, subscribe, and share. Thank you so much for watching until then. Have an awesome day, guys.